About the author. Eleanor Estes was an American children's author and a children's librarian. Her book, Ginger Pie, which she also created illustrations for, won the Newbery Medal. Three of her books were Newbery Honor winners, and one was awarded the Lewis Carroll Shelf Award. So let's move on to the story. The story is a very beautiful story and it's based on a true life experience of the author. Now, the story talks about discrimination and judgmental attitude of people. We're going to see how a schoolgirl was teased because of her name and qualities. So let's move on to the lesson. Today, Monday, Vanda Petronsky was not in her seat. So it was a Monday and a girl named Vanda Petronsky had not still arrived in the class. She was not in her seat. But nobody, not even Peggy and Madeline, the girls who started all the fun, noticed her absence. So what happened? There were other girls also in the class, and two other girls were Peggy and Madeline. Now these were the girls who started having all the fun, and they also did not notice that Vanda did not come to the class. Usually, Vanda sat in the seat next to the last seat in the last row in room 13. So, Vanda Petronsky's seat was in the last. She used to sit just before the last seat, and their classroom was called the room 13. She sat in the corner of the room where the rough boys who did not make good marks sat. So, she sat in the back seat, and usually all the boys who do not get good marks, who do not score well, or who do not listen to the class only sat in the last. So she used to sit next to them. This girl called Vanda Petronsky used to sit in the last seat of the class, just next to the last seat of the class. The corner of the room where there was most scuffling of feet, most roars of laughter when anything funny was said, and most mud and dirt on the floor. So that corner was reserved for people who used to not listen in the class. They used to make fun, and they used to even keep the floor dirty because of the mud from their shoes. So it was in that corner that this girl also, Vanda Petronsky, sat. Vanda did not sit there because she was rough and noisy. On the contrary, she was very quiet and rarely said anything at all. So why did Vanda occupy the corner of the seat, last corner of the room? Because she was very quiet, not that because she was a rough and tough student like the others. She was actually very quiet. She did not talk to anybody at all. And nobody had even heard her laugh out loud. She never even laughed loudly. Sometimes she twisted her mouth into a crooked sort of smile, but that was all. So she sometimes smiled, and when she smiled, what happened? Her mouth would be twisted in a crooked sort of way, and that was all. That's all. Otherwise, she was a very quiet student. Nobody knew exactly why Vanda sat in that seat, unless it was because she came all the way from Boggins Heights and her feet were usually caked with dry mud. So people did not understand why she sat in that corner of the classroom. But then she came from a place called Boggins Heights, and her shoes were usually covered with dirty mud. So they thought probably that's why she sat there in that corner of the room. But no one really thought much about Vanda Petronsky once she sat in the corner of the room. So nobody really bothered about this girl because she was sitting in that corner. She never spoke to anybody, and her shoes were always covered with mud. The time when they thought about Vanda was outside of the school hours, at noon time, when they were coming back to school, or in the morning early before school began, when groups of 2 or 3 or even more would be talking and laughing on their way to the schoolyard. So they bothered about this girl only outside school hours. That means early in the morning while coming to school, or during lunchtime, or after the school when groups of girls were talking and laughing. So it was only that time that they would notice this Vanda Petronsky and be bothered about. Then sometimes they waited for Vanda to have fun with her. And so sometimes what happened, these girls, groups of girls would wait for Vanda because they would want to have some fun with her. The next day, Tuesday, Vanda was not in school either. So what happened? On Monday she did not come, nobody noticed, and this was the second day, Tuesday. That day also she was not in school, and nobody noticed her absence again. So Tuesday also nobody noticed that she was absent. But on Wednesday, Peggy and Maddie, who sat down front with other children who got good marks and who didn't track in a whole lot of mud, did not notice that Wanda wasn't there. So, what happened on the third day, that is on Wednesday, Peggy and Maddie, the two other girls who scored good marks and who sat in the front of the class, they noticed that this girl, Wanda Petronsky, was absent. Peggy was the most popular girl in school. She was pretty, she had many pretty clothes, and her hair was curly. So, the most popular girl in the school and the whole class was also this girl called Peggy, because she was very beautiful and she had very beautiful dresses, and her hair was also said to be curly. Maddie was her closest friend. So, Peggy is the most popular girl in school, and her closest friend is Maddie. The reason Peggy and Maddie noticed Vanda's absence was because Vanda had made them late to school. So, how did they notice that this girl was not there? Because they had waited for her for a long time to have some fun with her, but she did not turn up. So, this made these two girls late to school. So, that is why they noticed that this Vanda had not come to school. They had waited and waited for Vanda to have some fun with her, and she had just hadn't come. They often waited for Vanda Petronsky to have fun with her. So every time they used to do this, they used to wait for her just to have some fun with her. And on this Wednesday also, they thought they would have some fun with her. So they waited for some time and she never turned up. So Vanda Petronsky. Most of the children in room 13 didn't have names like that. So who is this Vanda Petronsky? So she is one of the students in this room 13, and they all made fun of her because her name was very peculiar. Nobody had that kind of a name. So Vanda Petronsky. So that sounded very funny for the children in room 13. They had easy to say names like Thomas, Smith or Alan. So all the other students in that classroom had easy names according to them. So somebody was called Thomas or Smith or Alan. So her name, for them it was very funny, and they thought that it was a funny name. So there was one boy named Bounce, Willie Bounce, and people thought that was funny, but not funny in the same way that Petronsky was. So one boy in room 13 had a name Bounce, and his name was Willie Bounce, and the children thought that that name was also funny, but it was not as funny as Vanda Petronsky. Vanda didn't have any friends. So we know that she was a quiet girl, and so she never had any friends. She came to school alone and went home alone. So she was always alone. She always wore a faded blue dress that didn't hang right. That means she always wore one blue color dress and it was faded and it didn't suit her properly. It was too loose. Okay, so they say it didn't hang right. It was clean, but it looked as though it had never been ironed properly. Though she wore only that one dress every day, so it was always clean, but it was not ironed, it was crumbled. Okay. She didn't have any friends, but a lot of girls talked to her. So though she never had friends, people used to come and talk to her. Sometimes they surrounded her in the schoolyard as she stood watching the little girls play hopscotch on the worn ground. So sometime what happened, the girls would be playing hopscotch. What is hopscotch? You draw some boxes on the ground and you throw a retriever, a piece of stone or something. You have to hop and go and get it and come back and all this. So that is a game called hopscotch. So when the girls used to play this game, this Vanda used to go there and stand and watch. And that time all the girls will go and surround Vanda. Vanda, Peggy would say in a most courteous manner, as though she were talking to Miss Mason. So this Peggy, she would go to Vanda at that time, during that time, and she would talk to her in a very courteous manner. What is courteous manner? In a very respectable manner, as if she is talking to her own teacher, Miss Mason. Vanda, she'd say, giving one of her friends a nudge, tell us, how many dresses did you say you had hanging up in your closet? So just to have some fun with her, Peggy would ask a question. She would just nudge her friend. Nudge means give a small, hit push with her elbow, and so that they'll all come and listen to it. And she would ask the question. What is the question she'll ask? How many dresses do you have in your closet? Closet here means the cupboard. 100, Vanda would say. So she would say that she had 100 dresses. 100, exclaimed all the little girls incredulously. So all the girls would scream and ask. They could not believe that she had 100 dresses, because she always wore only one faded blue dress to the school. And little ones would stop playing hopscotch and listen. So when Peggy start asking this question and when Vanda answers, all the girls would stop and listen to this conversation. Yeah, 100 all lined up, said Vanda. And Vanda would say that, yes, I have 100 dresses and they're all lined up. That means hung one after the another in a neat manner. Then thin lips drew together in silence. What are they like? All silk, I bet. Then the next question Peggy would ask her was, these questions she's asking just to have some fun with Vanda. Then she would ask, are all your clothes made of silk? Yeah, all silk, all colors. And she would say that, yes, all my clothes are made of silk and I have all colors also. Velvet too? Yeah, velvet too. Then she would ask, do you have velvet material also? Velvet is a very soft material. And she would say, yes, I have velvet too. 100 dresses, Vanda would repeat stolidly. So Vanda would say that, yes, I have 100 dresses. And she would repeat it stolidly, means in a very calm manner, all lined up in my closet. So she say that I have all my clothes lined up in my closet. Closet here means the cupboard. Then they'd let her go. So after asking these questions, they would allow her to go. And then before she'd gone very far, they couldn't help bursting into shrieks and peals of laughter. So after she had gone, they would start laughing loudly, because they couldn't believe that somebody would have 100 dresses. 100 dresses. Obviously, the only dress Vanda had was the blue one she wore every day, because they also knew that this is not true, because she had been wearing only one dress. And what is that dress? A faded blue one she used to wear every day to school. So, how can she say that she has 100 dresses? So, why did she say she had 100? What a story. So, the children used to feel funny when she says that she had 100 dresses. But then they knew that she wore only one dress. And why is that she's saying that she had 100 dresses? How many shoes did you say you had? 60 pairs. So, they would also ask her how many shoes she had. And she would answer that she had 60 pairs of shoes, all lined up in my closet. Cries of exaggerated politeness greeted this. All alike. Oh no, every pair is different, all colors, all lined up. So they used to ask her, are all your shoes alike? Then she'll say, no, each pair is different and each is a different color and they're all lined up in my closet. Peggy, who had thought up this game, and Maddie, her inseparable friend, were always the last to leave. So these two were the girls who would start all these questions, and they were the ones to leave last as well. All the other children who were listening to this conversation would laugh and leave. Finally, Vanda would move up the street, her eyes dull and her mouth closed, hitching her left shoulder every now and then in the funny way she had, finishing the walk to school alone. So she would not bother, she would just keep quiet, Vanda Petronsky, and she would go away to home alone. And she also sometimes behaved in a very funny manner. She used to hitch her shoulder, that is, move her shoulder in a funny manner. So that also made these people laugh at her. Peggy was not really cruel. So this girl Peggy, she was not a cruel girl. She protected small children from bullies. That means she used to always help the small children and protect them from bullies. That means when any other children used to come and bully the small kids, Peggy used to come and help them or save them from the other bullies. So she was not a cruel girl. And she cried for hours if she saw animals mistreated. So she also loved animals and she did not like animals to be mistreated. That means treated badly. If anybody had said to her, do you think that is a cruel way to treat Vanda? She would have been very surprised. Cruel? Why did the girl say that she had 100 dresses? Anybody could tell that was a lie. So why did she want to lie? So sometimes somebody would go and ask Peggy, why did you want to behave like that to Vanda Petronsky? And immediately Peggy would say, see, she is telling a lie. So why did she want to tell a lie? And she wasn't just an ordinary person, else why did she have a name like that? So she used to try to convince others by telling that she had certain reasons of teasing Vanda Petronsky. First of all, because she lied, and second, because she had a very funny name. So that's why she used to tease Vanda, and she thought that she was not being very cruel to Vanda Petronsky. Anyway, they never made her cry, but they never made this girl cry. They used to just ask questions, have some fun, and leave. As for Maddie, this business of asking Vanda every day how many dresses and how many hats and how many this and that she had was bothering her. So Maddie used to be with Peggy when she was asking questions. But then nowadays, this questioning session was kind of bothering Maddie. She was not happy with that. Maddie was poor herself, so she was a very poor girl, not like Peggy. She usually wore somebody's hand me down clothes. What is hand me down clothes? When the clothes get, so smaller, or when it fades a little or something, the rich people give them to the poor people so that they can use them. So this Maddie also used to get clothes from somebody, and those were the clothes that she wore. Thank goodness she didn't live up on Boggins Heights or have a funny name. And at the same time, she was happy that she didn't live on this Boggins Heights and she didn't have a funny name. Otherwise, Peggy would have made fun of her as well. So sometimes when Peggy was asking Vanda those questions in that mocking, polite voice, Maddie felt embarrassed and studied the marbles in the palm of her hand, rolling them around and saying nothing herself. So what happened when Peggy was making fun of Vanda, Maddie used to be standing along with her, and she used to feel embarrassed because she didn't really like those questioning sessions, because she understood that